The massive chamber of the Galactic Council gleamed with polished metal and floating holograms. Around the circular table sat representatives of the most powerful species in the known universe. Their armor sparkled, their weapons displayed proudly at their sides. All except for one. The human representative, Tom Roberts, who wore a simple blue uniform with safety stripes. Another human ship delayed because of weather conditions. The representative from the warrior race of the Steel Mountains, General Rock, laughed so hard his armor rattled. His gray, stone-like skin cracked into what passed for a smile among his people. How do you humans ever get anything done? Tom sat quietly, used to such comments. His people had only joined the Galactic Council 5 years ago, and this kind of mockery had become routine. The other species, all proud warrior races, couldn't understand the human obsession with safety protocols and risk assessment. Perhaps, rumbled Ambassador Dawn of the Fire Plains, her flame-like hair flickering with amusement, we should lower the danger classification of asteroid fields. Just for the humans. More laughter filled the chamber. The council meeting continued with its usual business. Reports of glorious battles, tales of warriors charging into danger, and ceremonies honoring those who showed the greatest bravery by taking the biggest risks. Tom took notes on his tablet, noting how different their definition of courage was from humanity's. But everything changed when the emergency signal flashed across all screens in the chamber. The hologram at the center of the room shifted to show multiple distress beacons from the outer rim mining colonies. Red dots blinked urgently across the star map. The laughter died immediately. Mining colonies. General Rock curled his stone lip. Civilian matters are beneath the warriors of the Steel Mountains. Ambassador Dawn's flames dimmed slightly. The Fire Plains fleet only responds to military threats. These are just miners who probably ignored proper safety protocols. The irony of her statement was lost on her. One by one, the proud warrior races found reasons not to respond. The miners weren't warriors. There was no glory in rescue operations. Their ships were designed for battle, not civilian evacuation. Tom stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. The sound echoed in the now quiet chamber. Earth's Emergency Response Coalition will respond. With what? General Rock sneered. Your ships can barely reach combat speed because of all your safety features. He spat the last words like they were an insult. Tom activated his communicator. ERC command. This is Council Representative Roberts. We have multiple colonies in distress in the Outer Rim, requesting immediate deployment of rescue fleets. The response came instantly. Understood, sir. Rescue fleets are already on standby. Standard safety protocols are in effect. Launch in 5 minutes. The warrior races exchanged glances. They had never seen humans move so quickly to make a decision. Usually, humans would spend hours discussing safety measures and running risk assessments. You're actually going? Ambassador Dawn asked, genuine surprise in her fiery eyes. But your ships aren't built for such dangerous operations. Tom gathered his tablets, already heading for the door. Our ships are built exactly for dangerous operations, Ambassador. That's why they have all those safety features you mock. We go in prepared, we go in careful, and we get people out alive. As he reached the door, he turned back to face the council. You know what's really funny? You all think humans are cowards because we care about safety. But right now, we're the only ones willing to help those miners. Maybe it's time to rethink your definition of courage. The door slid shut behind him, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. On the main screen, the distress beacons continued to flash, and now they were joined by new signals. Dozens of human rescue ships, lighting up the map as they prepared to launch. General Rock watched the screen, his stone face unreadable. Cowards, he muttered, but for the first time, there was a hint of uncertainty in his voice. The age of warrior races was about to learn a lesson about true bravery, and it would come from the most unexpected teachers, the cowardly humans who dared to care. The rescue ship, Hope's Light, hummed as it prepared for launch. Inside the bridge, Tom Roberts watched his crew run through their safety checks. Other races might laugh at their procedures, but Tom knew better. Every check could mean the difference between life and death. "Engineering systems ready," called Jack Thompson from his station. His hands moved quickly over the controls, but never rushed. The ship's engineer had been doing this for 15 years, and he trusted the process. "Medical bay prepared," reported Kate Miller. She had already arranged her emergency supplies twice, making sure everything was in its proper place. Her steady voice carried the confidence of someone who had saved hundreds of lives. Tom nodded, pressing the ship-wide communication button. "All crews, this is your captain. We're heading into a situation with multiple colonies in distress. We do this by the book. Safe, steady, and smart. These people are counting on us." Through the launch bay windows, he could see 5 other human rescue ships preparing to launch. Each one was painted in bright colors with reflective safety stripes, a far cry from the sleek battle cruisers of the warrior races. "Look at that," Jack said, pointing to a nearby dock where a steel mountain warship sat. "Their ships are all weapons, not a single rescue pod." "Different priorities," Kate replied, checking her medical scanner one last time. "They build their ships to take lives. We build ours to save them." The launch countdown began. Tom felt the familiar flutter in his stomach. Not fear, but readiness. His crew might not wear armor or carry weapons, but they were warriors in their own way. Warriors of life, not death. Launch in 3, 2, 1. The Hope's light lifted smoothly from its dock, its engines glowing with a soft blue light. One by one, the other rescue ships joined them, forming a perfect formation. Their designated positions had been practiced countless times in drills. As they cleared Earth's space station, a message came through from one of the warrior race observers. "Human vessels, you are moving too slowly. At this speed, many will die before you arrive." Tom pressed the reply button. "This is Captain Roberts. We're moving at optimal rescue speed. Pushing harder would drain the power we need for our rescue equipment. We'll get there exactly when we need to." The observer's laugh crackled over the radio. Typical human cowardice. Our ships would be there in half the time. "Maybe," Tom muttered to himself, "but would you know what to do when you got there?" The rescue fleet moved through space, their formation tight and precise. Inside each ship, crews checked and rechecked their equipment. Some called it paranoid. They called it being prepared. 4 hours into their journey, the first detailed scans of the mining colonies came through. The situation was worse than they thought. A massive solar flare had hit the region, damaging the colony's protective shields. The mines were becoming unstable, and radiation levels were rising. "This is why we brought the heavy shields," Jack said, patting his console. "All those extra safety systems don't seem so funny now, do they?" Kate was already preparing additional radiation treatment kits. The warrior races would have charged in with their battle shields. "They don't understand. You can't fight radiation with weapons." Tom studied the colony scans carefully. The warrior races had been right about one thing. People would die if help didn't arrive soon. But rushing in without proper preparation would only add rescuers to the casualty list. "All ships," he commanded, "activate radiation shields. Begin emergency approach pattern Delta. Remember your training. We're not here to be heroes. We're here to save lives." The Hope's light and its sister ships moved forward, their extra shields glowing as they pushed through the radiation field. They might not look as impressive as warships, but they were built for exactly this kind of mission. As they approached the first colony, Tom thought about the council chamber and all those proud warriors who had refused to help. Sometimes, he realized, the bravest thing wasn't charging into danger. It was being willing to take things slowly and carefully to ensure everyone made it home alive. "First colony in visual range," Jack reported, "ready to begin rescue operations." Tom took a deep breath. This was what humans did best. Not fighting, not conquering, but saving those in need. "Let's show them what real courage looks like," he said. Begin approach. The mining colony looked like a broken metal anthill. Cracks ran through its outer walls, and emergency lights flashed weakly through dust-covered windows. As the Hope's light moved closer, the ship's sensors painted a grim picture. 342 life signs detected. Kate reported, her eyes fixed on the medical scanner. Most of them are gathered in the lower levels. The radiation hasn't reached there yet. Tom studied the structural analysis that Jack had pulled up. The mine shafts twisted deep into the planet's crust, and many were already showing signs of collapse. One wrong move could bring the whole thing down. "Captain," the radio crackled. A small group of alien ships had arrived, not to help, but to watch. "Our scans show the structure is failing. The warrior way would be to blast open the outer walls and extract survivors quickly." Jack snorted at his engineering station. "Yeah, and bring the whole mine down on their heads." Tom ignored the alien observers. "All rescue ships, begin careful approach. Teams 1 and 2, deploy shield generators around the main structure. Teams 3 and 4, prepare for careful entry through the emergency airlocks." The human ships moved with practiced precision. They looked like a slow dance in space, each movement calculated and careful. The warrior race observers watched with what seemed like boredom. Inside the colony's main airlock, Tom led the first rescue team. Their suits were bulky with extra radiation shielding, not the sleek combat armor the warrior races preferred. Each step was checked and double-checked. "This is why humans will never be true warriors," one of the alien observers commented over the open channel. "Look how long they take just to enter a building." The rescue team finally made it inside. The colony's hallways were dark, lit only by emergency lights and the beams from their safety lamps. The air was thick with dust. "Life signs strongest 2 levels down," Kate said, checking her scanner. "But the main lift is out." "We use the emergency stairs," Tom replied. "Jack, how's the structural integrity?" "Not good. We've got major stress points in the lower levels. One big shake could start a chain reaction." They moved carefully down the emergency stairs, testing each step. The warrior observers continued to make comments about their slow pace, but Tom's team stayed focused. They knew what they were doing. When they reached the lower level, they found the first group of survivors. Miners from 6 different species huddled in a large storage room, looking scared but alive. Their eyes widened at the sight of the human rescue team. "Humans?" one of them asked. "We were told the warrior races would send help." "We're your help," Tom said, starting to set up emergency radiation shields. "And we're going to get everyone out safely." The rescue operation began. Each survivor was carefully checked by Kay for injuries and radiation exposure. Jack monitored the structure constantly, calling out warnings when certain areas became too unstable. "This would go faster if you just rushed them out," an alien observer noted. Tom was helping an injured miner when he replied, "Fast isn't always safe, and we're here to keep people alive, not win a race." Suddenly, a deep rumble shook the mine. Dust fell from the ceiling, and support beams groaned. Everyone froze. "Status report," Tom called out. Jack's voice was tense but controlled. "Major structural shift. 3 of the deeper tunnels are starting to collapse. We've got about 20 minutes before it affects this level." The alien observers immediately suggested abandoning the deeper levels and evacuating only those easily reached. But Tom could see on his scanner that there were still miners trapped down there. "Kate, continue evacuation here. Jack, get those shields in place. I'm going deeper." "That's suicide," an alien observer shouted. "Even our warriors wouldn't." "Exactly," Tom said, checking his safety lines. "You wouldn't, but we will, because that's what humans do." He stepped toward the darker tunnel, every movement still careful and measured. There was no wild charge, no battle cry, just determined, cautious progress toward people who needed help. Behind him, he heard one of the rescued miners whisper, I think I'd finally understand why humans have all those safety protocols. Tom smiled inside his helmet. Sometimes the bravest thing wasn't running into danger, but walking into it carefully enough to make sure everyone got out alive. The deeper tunnels of the mine were like the throat of a dying beast, groaning and shuddering with each passing moment. Tom's helmet lights cut through the darkness as he carefully made his way down. His radiation meter ticked upward with each step, but his suit's shielding held strong. Radiation levels are rising faster than expected. Kate's voice crackled through his radio. You've got maybe 30 minutes before it reaches dangerous levels, even with the suit. Above, the evacuation continued. The first groups of miners were already being loaded onto the rescue ships. But down here, in the darkness, Tom's scanner showed 6 life signs still waiting for help. Captain, one of the alien observers called over the radio. Your own safety protocols say you should retreat. The radiation levels are beyond your stated acceptable limits. Tom checked his map as he secured another safety line. Our protocols also say we never leave people behind if there's a chance to save them. He found them in an old storage chamber. 6 miners trapped behind a partially collapsed doorway. They were shocked to see a human rescuer coming for them. We thought everyone had left, one of them said, voice shaking. The warrior races, they said this area was too dangerous to attempt rescue. Well, they were half right, Tom replied, setting up a portable shield generator. It is dangerous. That's why we came prepared. Jack's voice cut through the radio. Tom, structural integrity is dropping fast. The radiation is weakening the support beams. You need to move, but carefully. This was where human methods proved their worth. Tom didn't just grab the miners and run. He quickly but methodically checked each one's condition, gave them emergency radiation shields, and explained the evacuation plan. This is painful to watch, an alien observer commented. A warrior would have carried them all out by now. As if to answer, a massive rumble shook the tunnel. Parts of the ceiling began to crack. And that's exactly why we don't do that, Tom muttered, securing the last miner's safety line. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. They started their careful journey back up. Each step was measured, each turn planned. The alien observers continued to criticize their pace, but Tom's focus never wavered. Halfway up, Kate's voice came through with urgency. Tom, radiation levels are spiking. The shielding in that area is about to fail. The miners looked scared, but Tom's calm voice kept them moving. We've planned for this. Everyone, secondary shields on. Keep following the marked path. One of the alien observers actually sounded worried now. Human, your suit's radiation warning is flashing red. You must abandon the slow protocols and run. But Tom knew better. Running would lead to mistakes, and mistakes would kill everyone. Instead, he continued his steady pace, making sure each miner stayed on the safe path. The rescue took every second of the 30 minutes Kate had predicted. By the time they reached the upper levels, Tom's suit was screaming warnings about radiation exposure. But every miner was alive, and no one had been left behind. As medical teams rushed to help the survivors, Tom finally allowed himself to sink to his knees, exhausted. Kate was by his side immediately with a radiation treatment kit. Your radiation exposure is past the safety limit, she said, checking his vitals. But you stayed just under the lethal threshold, almost like you planned it that way. Tom managed a tired smile, almost like all those safety protocols and careful measurements had a purpose. Through the radio, they could hear the alien observers talking among themselves. Their tone had changed. Did you see? They never broke protocol, even at the end. But they still went in, despite the danger. Perhaps we have misunderstood human courage. Jack helped Tom to his feet. Looks like we're teaching them something after all. Maybe, Tom replied, watching as the rescued miners were guided to safety. But that's not why we do this. We do it because everyone deserves to go home at the end of their shift. As if to emphasize his point, Another rumble shook the mine. But this time, everyone was safe. Human caution and human courage had won the day, one careful step at a time. The alien observers watched in silence as the last of the survivors were loaded onto the rescue ships. Their earlier mockery had been replaced by something that looked very much like respect. The main control room of the mining colony shook violently. Warning lights flashed across every screen as the structure groaned under increasing pressure. Tom, Kate, and Jack huddled around the central console, studying the rapidly changing data. "The radiation has weakened the main support columns," Jack reported, his fingers flying over the controls. "We've got maybe 20 minutes before total collapse starts." Kate looked up from her medical scanner. "We still have 38 miners unaccounted for. They must be in the east tunnels." The alien observers, who had been quietly watching the humans work, suddenly became vocal again. "The east tunnels are already falling apart. Even our bravest warriors would consider those miners lost." Tom checked his suit's radiation readings. They were still dangerously high from his last rescue, but the emergency treatment Kate had given him would hold for a while longer. "We're not leaving anyone behind." "Jack, what about the experimental shield technology?" Jack nodded, pulling up the schematics for their newest safety system, the portable quantum shields. "They're untested in real conditions. The warrior races called them another example of human overcaution." "Well," Tom said, starting to check his suit seals, "time to show them why we prepare for everything." The radio crackled with an incoming message from the alien observation ships. "Human vessels, our scans show complete structural failure is imminent. You must withdraw now." Instead of responding, Tom turned to his team. "Kate, get everyone we've rescued to the ships. Jack, bring the quantum shields online. I'm going in." "Not alone," Jack said, checking his own suit. "The shields need an engineer to set them up." The alien observers watched in disbelief as the humans moved toward the east tunnels instead of retreating. Their cameras followed Tom and Jack as they carefully made their way through the crumbling corridors, setting up the new shield generators at key points. "The humans are using untested technology in a collapsing mine," one observer noted with something like awe in their voice. "But look how they're still following safety protocols." The east tunnels were in worse shape than they'd feared. Cracks spider-webbed across the walls, and the air was thick with dust. Their helmet lights revealed glimpses of twisted metal and fallen supports. They found the trapped miners huddled in a relatively stable pocket, surrounded by collapse on all sides. The miners' eyes widened at the sight of their rescuers. You came for us," one of them asked in disbelief. "But the warriors said this area was doomed." "Nothing's doomed while there's still a chance," Tom replied, helping Jack set up the first quantum shield. "And we humans like to make our own chances." The shield generators hummed to life, creating a stable tunnel through the chaos. It wasn't pretty, none of the sleek efficiency the warrior races preferred, but it worked. Suddenly, a massive shock wave rocked the entire colony. The walls began to crack faster, and warning sirens blared through every speaker. "Total structural failure in progress." Kate's voice came through their radios. "You have less than 5 minutes." The alien observers were shouting now, demanding that the humans retreat, but Tom and Jack stayed focused, guiding the miners through their shielded path. "Quantum shields at maximum," Jack called out, watching the readings climb. "They're holding, but just barely." They moved as quickly as they safely could, the shields creating a protective bubble around them as the mine collapsed on all sides. The alien observers had gone silent, watching in stunned amazement as the humans' preparation and technology kept them alive. With less than a minute to spare, they reached the main level. Kate was waiting with medical teams, ready to treat the survivors. Through the observation windows, they could see the rest of the mine beginning to cave in behind them. As the last miner stepped to safety, the quantum shields finally overloaded. They watched as their experimental technology burned out, having done its job perfectly. "Impossible," one of the alien observers whispered. They survived using safety equipment and careful protocols where our strongest warriors feared to go. Tom helped an injured miner onto a stretcher, his voice tired but satisfied. Nothing impossible about it. We just planned for the worst while hoping for the best. That's the human way. Behind them, the mine finally collapsed completely. But everyone was safe. Human caution, preparation, and quiet courage had proven stronger than any warrior's bravado. The alien observers were sending new messages now, not criticisms, but requests. They wanted to know more about human safety protocols, about their rescue techniques, about their way of facing danger. Perhaps at last, they were beginning to understand that true courage wore many faces. News traveled fast across the galaxy. Within days of the mining colony rescue, every major species was talking about what the humans had done. In the great halls of the Steel Mountains, warriors gathered around screens showing recordings of the rescue operation. In the Fire Plains, military commanders studied human safety protocols with newfound interest. Tom stood in the Galactic Council chamber again, but this time the atmosphere was different. Gone were the mocking laughs and sneers. Instead, the representatives of the warrior races watched him with thoughtful expressions. "Let me understand this correctly," General Rock said, his stone face serious. "Your ships carried experimental shield technology, not because you expected to use it, but because you believed in being prepared for anything." "That's correct," Tom replied. "We humans have a saying, better to have it and not need it, than need it and not have it." Ambassador Dawn's fiery form flickered thoughtfully. "And your rescue teams spent years practicing these protocols, even though many emergencies might never happen." "Especially because they might never happen," Tom explained. "We practice for the worst so we're ready when it comes." The chamber doors opened, and a group of the rescued miners entered. They came from different species, but they all walked with the same purpose. One of them, a veteran miner with scales like polished metal, stepped forward to address the council. "I've worked the Outer Rim mines for 30 years, he said, his voice carrying across the chamber. "I've seen warrior races charge into battle without hesitation. But when our mines were collapsing and radiation was rising, they said it was too dangerous. Only the humans came." Another miner spoke up, her crystalline form catching the light. "They'd moved carefully, yes. They checked everything twice, yes. But they never stopped coming for us. Never left anyone behind." The council chamber filled with similar stories. Each rescued miner described how human caution had saved lives, how their preparation had made the impossible possible. The warrior races listened, and something began to change in their expressions. General Rock turned to Tom. "My people have always believed that charging into danger was the height of bravery. But watching your teams work, there was courage in every careful step you took." "It's a different kind of courage," Tom said. "The courage to take things slowly when everything inside you wants to rush. The courage to check your safety line one more time when others call you a coward. The courage to trust your training when everyone tells you to just charge in." Ambassador Dawn stood, her flames burning bright. "The Fire Plains fleet requests access to human safety protocols and rescue training programs." One by one, other representatives made similar requests. The warrior races, who had once mocked human caution, now sought to learn from it. "There will be more colonies to save," Tom said. "More mines that need evacuation. More people who need help. We're happy to teach what we know." A young warrior from the Steel Mountains approached Tom after the meeting. "I always wanted to be a hero," he said. "I thought that meant fighting battles. But watching your rescue teams, that was real heroism." Tom smiled. "Heroes come in many forms. Sometimes they wear battle armor. Sometimes they wear safety harnesses. What matters is being willing to help others, no matter how you do it." Across the galaxy, things began to change. Warrior race ships started carrying rescue equipment alongside their weapons. Their crews began training in safety protocols. Some even painted their ships with reflective safety stripes, proudly copying the human style they had once mocked. In the Earth Emergency Response Coalition headquarters, Tom looked at the latest reports with satisfaction. Applications for rescue training had increased tenfold, including many from the warrior races. Videos of human rescue techniques were being studied in military academies that had once taught only combat. "Looks like we started something," Kate said, reviewing the training requests. Jack nodded, looking at a message from a Steel Mountain engineering team asking about safety protocols. They finally realize that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is take your time and do things right. Tom watched as another rescue fleet launched, this one carrying crews from 3 different warrior races, all trained in human safety procedures. They moved carefully, methodically, just as they had been taught. "Maybe," he said, "we all just needed to learn that there's more than one way to be brave." 6 months after the mining colony rescue, the Galactic Council chamber was transformed. Where once there had been only weapon displays and battle trophies, now safety equipment and rescue gear stood proudly alongside them. The warrior races had learned that there was honor in saving lives, not just in combat. Tom stood before the council one last time before his retirement. Behind him, the chamber was packed with representatives from every spacefaring race, including hundreds of miners who had been saved by human rescue teams over the years. General Rock, his stone face now marked with safety stripes similar to human rescue gear, spoke first. "6 months ago, we called humans cowards. We were wrong. Today, we create a new category of valor in the galactic record: human courage." Ambassador Dawn rose, her flames glowing softly. "This award recognizes bravery shown not in battle, but in the protection and preservation of life. Courage demonstrated through preparation, caution, and unwavering dedication to saving others." Tom listened as they described how things had changed. Warrior race ships now carried rescue equipment designed by humans, their crews trained in safety protocols. The very races that had once mocked human caution now took pride in their own rescue teams. "But perhaps," Tom said when it was his turn to speak, "the greatest change is in how we all view courage itself. It's not just about charging into danger anymore. It's about doing what needs to be done, however it needs to be done, to help others." He told them about his last rescue mission. Just a week ago, a space station had been damaged by an asteroid, and the rescue team included members from every warrior race. They had moved carefully, followed safety protocols, and saved everyone aboard. "They called us cowards because we checked our safety lines twice," Tom continued. "They laughed because we calculated risks before acting. But true courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being willing to help others despite your fears." In the audience, Kate and Jack watched proudly. They had seen the change firsthand. Their training classes now included warriors from across the galaxy, all eager to learn human rescue techniques. "The bravest warrior I ever met," Tom said, "was a young Steel Mountain crew member on that last mission." The station was about to decompress. The warrior in him wanted to rush in, but instead, he took the time to properly seal his suit and check his equipment. That extra minute felt like forever, but it meant he could save 3 more lives. General Rock nodded. He followed human protocols. "In the past, we would have called that cowardice. Now we know better." The council presented Tom with the first Human Courage Medal. It wasn't made of precious metals or rare gems like their battle honors. Instead, it was crafted from pieces of rescue equipment that had saved lives. But Tom wasn't finished speaking. "This medal doesn't belong just to me, or even just to humans. It belongs to everyone who's learned that being careful isn't the same as being afraid. That being cautious isn't being cowardly. That sometimes the greatest acts of courage happen in slow, careful steps." As if to prove his point, emergency signals suddenly flashed across the chamber's screens. A passenger ship was in trouble near the outer rim. Before anyone could speak, rescue ships from 6 different species were already launching, their crews following human safety protocols. Tom watched them go with a smile. "See, that's what we were trying to teach you all along. When there's trouble, You don't have to be the fastest, or the strongest, or the most fearless. You just have to be ready, be prepared, and be willing to help. The chamber erupted in applause. The warrior races had finally understood what humans had known all along: that true courage wore many faces, moved at many speeds, and sometimes came with safety stripes and careful protocols. As Tom left the chamber for the last time, he passed a group of young warriors studying rescue procedures. They snapped to attention when they saw him, not because he was a great warrior, but because he had taught them a new way to be brave. The age of the warrior races wasn't ending, it was evolving. And somewhere out in space, ships of all species flew proudly with their safety stripes gleaming, ready to prove that sometimes the greatest courage was simply being prepared to help others, one careful step at a time.